What's up, YouTube boxing family? It is K right here. I'm back at it with another good video for you guys today. I'm gonna be talking about Mr. Jaron Boots Ennis. Is Jaron Ennis the next Erickson Lubin of boxing? So I don't want to be disrespectful because I like Erickson Lubin a lot, and anybody who's watching this that's connected with him or Lubin himself. This is not a video to disrespect Lubin. I'm simply, just saying what I want to say, and I just do it for the sake of just having fun. So, no hard feelings for anybody that does end up watching this video from any outside sources, but yeah, let's get right into it, man. Is Jaron Ennis the next Erickson Lubin? It's a maybe, and here's why. Jaron Ennis, very good fighter, has amazing offense and defense. He's a complete package of a unfinished product of a up and coming, he's a unfinished product experiment that could easily dominate boxing to a certain degree of him, being at the highest peak of where he's at. To be a potential all-time great fighter. But there's always the what if, and I want to say with a guy of Jaron Ennis's caliber, he's very similar to Erickson Lubin. Not skill-wise, but I think physicality-wise, there's going to be something out of Jaron Ennis where it's going to make people think that he's going to be touted as like one of the next big things, and I think there could be a moment in his, fights that creates the most, biggest sense of adversity where Jaron Ennis, he could potentially have that Erickson Lubin moment where he's going to be caught up into what people say about him. And the thing about it is that Jaron Ennis, he's so skilled with having 30 fights or 31 fights under his belt. And he's now 30-0, so you're not far away from hitting the Floyd Mayweather 50, the Floyd Mayweather 50 fight mark. But at this stage of his career, I mean, has he really been taking any hard fights lately? And I would say no, because he hasn't really been hyper tested yet. He's been mildly tested, and I think he's doing very well. But at the stage of where he's at right now, it's a question mark. We don't know how Boots is going to scale against the rest of the welterweight competition. And I think with this Karen Chukaduka, Radazarian, whoever, the hell his last name is, but I think this now shown a little bit more of vulnerability with Jaron Ennis, and now I think this is like a ticket for him to get the calls now to fight anybody in the welterweight division. And I don't know who he's gonna fight next, but I think, in my honest opinion, I think that the best opponent available would be Terrence Crawford. And I think what's gonna happen is that the WBO, they're gonna end up mandating Boots to be the mandatory to Terrence Crawford. And the thing about it is that when Virgil Ortiz and Stanionis, they end up fighting each other, which the sad news about Stanionis is that he's actually injured with a shoulder injury or some form of a massive severe injury that required surgery. He had to get that taken care of before he could ever get inside of the ring with Virgil. So Virgil Ortiz, he's basically sitting on the sidelines doing nothing. So I think at this stage of his career, why not Virgil and Boots get it going? Because it's this is a perfect opportunity to fight each other. But knowing how Virgil is moving, I think he's a duck. So he ducked Terrence Crawford for the WBO mandatory position. So I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen with the WBO. I'm hoping that the WBO come April time frame, that's where my birthday is, that Jaron Ennis, he gets his fight, and yeah, we get to see Boots fight everybody. And I think that's not the biggest what if saga, because we don't know what's really happening, and that's going to be the hard part, because no one doesn't know what's going to happen with the WBO or any of the sanction bodies. But now that Jaron Ennis, he has the IBF interim title, does that mean he's going to have to end up waiting what happens with Errol Spence and his decision, if he's going to end up staying at 47 and choosing to get undisputed? Because if he's going to do one more campaign to 147 to try to see what's going to happen to get what he wants, I think it's a perfect time frame for him to do what he needs to do to be at 147 for a little bit longer before he makes his move to 154, and see what happens. Because I think where he's at right now, if he's going to fight Keith Thurman next, it's a perfect opportunity for him to take advantage of getting Keith Thurman out the way, and then after that you can go ahead and maybe consider trying to get the Crawford fight, which I don't think it's going to happen. I think Crawford is going to continue to duck Spence. But if Jaron Ennis, on the other hand, if he can get that mandatory challenger spot to beat Terrence Crawford out of the WBO, then I think what's going to happen is that I think what's going to happen is that Jaron Ennis, he's going to clear Crawford. He's going to beat the living crap out of him. And then, he should be in position to fight Errol Spence for undisputed. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge in the welterweight division come by late 2023. That's my prediction. I think Errol Spence is going to stay for at least another year, which I don't think it's going to be a year. I think it's going to be at least, I would probably say at least heading into 6 months to at least to the end of the year, coming into 2024, because Errol Spence, he'll be 33 sadly in March, but at least he's still fresh. And even though he's been through a lot of wars, I mean, Errol Spence, he's a dog, so I mean, there's really nothing to really be mad about. I mean, he, I think he's gonna have like a much bigger, career, once he's at 154. But after that, everything's gonna be pretty, simple. I think where things are at right now, Errol Spence, he's in a really good position, and I think where EJ is at right now, this is a very good opportunity. So I think Errol Spence should continue to try to see where things are going to go at 147, because hey, you know what, like, you might not know, he could very well end up facing oh shit, sorry, like I had something going on, but he could very well end up facing Jaron Ennis for undisputed. And I think where things are headed in the division, Crawford is going to get beat out. I think he's going to lose to Jaron Ennis if that fight gets mandated. But I'm really hoping that he doesn't try to pull off like a fucking a voluntary defense where he's gonna end up fighting Rashidi Ellis, which I don't see how that's ever gonna be possible. But if he does that, that's just not good. I'm really hoping that doesn't happen like that, because it's not like he's like really in position to even be qualified to even do that for Crawford's end. And I'm hoping that the WBO doesn't allow that, because if they do, then I think the WBO should be absolutely prosecuted for just fraudulent behavior of just not managing their rankings and actually making sure that fighters get their shot. But I mean, this is why that I want sanction bodies gone, because it clearly shows that there is some political bias when it comes to picking and choosing opponents when you become a champion in boxing. Because people try to act like, oh no, well, champions still go through the notion of fighting who they need to fight. No, the fuck they don't. Because you clearly see, fighters like Katie Taylor fighting people that we've never heard of, and she's out here just defending her belt like what, one one or two times a year, if not three, depending on how the sanction bodies, work for Katie Taylor. But I don't even understand why she's even campaigning at lightweight, anymore, or at all, because it's like there's like nobody there. And Katie Taylor is a pure definition of a marginalized, comfortable fighter. And I think I need to make like a video about that. But she's a marginal, low level fighter. That's really who she is. She is comfortable fighting opposition that puts her in a position to do the things that she wants to do, because she doesn't have anybody breathing down her neck to tell anybody, or for anybody to tell her who she needs to fight. And that's basically Katie's problem. Like she's really in that bad position to put herself in a really bad state where, or actually no, she's in a good position where she doesn't need to worry, about anything happening for her, for her career, for who she needs to fight, because for one, her fans don't really call for her to fight anybody that she needs to fight. But on top of that, Katie, she's not that notable of a name in boxing, where no one really cares to even mention her name because she doesn't bring anything to the table. And I think that's the biggest issue with Katie, because with Katie, she's totally fine fighting women that are quote unquote her mandatories, which I don't even think she even has any mandatories that often. But it just looks to be that she's comfortable fighting low level marginal opposition, where it's females that don't even qualify to even be in that position to fight her, like Jennifer Hahn. I mean, Christina Lina Darto, that's a decent fight at 140 that she had, but still, Katie Taylor is a great example of what Terrence Crawford is doing. Let me hold my belt until I'm old and dry, or cut dry from the sport, and then you're just going to pretend as if you're like the greatest of all time, defending your belt like you're some Sugar Ray, Robinson out here, trying to, replicate him, which I don't understand, like, why she's trying to do that. It's like, there's really nothing valuable of you trying to pull off like a record like that, because people in boxing will start to understand how fighters move. And shout out to Ricky Williams, but he has the old saying as men move a certain way, so therefore women, they move a certain way. But that motto is still true to this day, because Katie Taylor is a pure definition of a fighter that doesn't want to put herself in any harm's way, unless she's actually being pressured by the audience to do so. But she does come to let the table, but she really doesn't have like pure interest to really be fighting like the best competition. And that's not the problem with Katie. She's that type of woman where she doesn't want to be put in a position where she has to work as hard to hold her spot. So why not do that at the lightweight division, where you can easily get whatever fight you want against women that don't have a lot of experience to get to the world title level. But it's like, she's like, out of her last 5 to 10 fights, like previously, like I'm just making the comparison of her resume compared to Crawford's, she basically has at the same level of competition that Crawford has fought. And I can even go to it right now, but let me just go back and look at her resume as a fighter, because she's basically doing what Terrence Crawford's doing. I'm just gonna stay at this division and not move up and actually face better opposition, but subtract Amanda Serrano from the equation. That's her best victory up to date. But you had Karen Karabajal, Firuza Sharapova, Jennifer Hahn, Natasha Jonas, 1, 2, 3, 4, Miriam Gutierrez, that's 5, Delphine Persoon, that's 6, Christina, that's 7, and then you had Delphine Persoon, that's 8, Rosa Valente, that's 9, Eva Wallstrom, 10. Like, she really hasn't fought anybody good. Like, I mean, Katie has been fighting women that are not on her level, or women that are way past it in their prime. And I mean, the only tough fight out of the entire resume is, well, her toughest fights to date is definitely Delphine Persoon. Natasha Jonas, she definitely should have lost that fight. She got outclassed, and Amanda Serrano. That's it. Everybody else is really not there. I mean, Cindy Serrano, okay, like, I mean, decent victory, but Cindy Serrano, she wasn't at her best either. But still, it's like, it's clearly showing that Katie's doing the same thing what Crawford's doing. I'm not going to challenge myself to anybody good, in boxing. So why should I have to work harder to a certain level where I don't need to put myself in harm's way to even be notable in my division? So, with Crawford, obviously with his, previous, how should I say, like his previous 10, opponents, he obviously fought, David Amnesia or David Avanesian. That's a fight that, he should have never fought, but it's like Crawford clearly used that to duck Spence. And then if we want to talk about, the other last 9 opponents, he's fought, who else? He fought Sean Porter, that's 2, Kell Brook 3, Igis Kavalauskas, Green Beans 4, Amir Khan 5, Jose Benavidez Jr. 6, Jeff Horn 7, Julius Ndongo 8, Felix Diaz 9, John Molina Jr. 10. And I say out of these opponents, his only toughest opponents to date would maybe be the Amir Khan fight, and then definitely Sean Porter. But Kell Brook, Kell Brook too, but this is the Kell Brook that got damaged by EJ. So clearly it's like the same thing with Crawford or what Katie Taylor's doing. She's fighting opponents where she knows that she can win, and she's not putting herself in harm's way against anybody that could put herself in a bad position, in which she has to work hard for her victories. Because, when you compare it with like Errol Spence, or you compare it with how should I say, like anybody else in boxing, I mean, that's really how good fighters are determined to be considered great fighters. So, you are how you breed your competition. Like, basically the saying goes is that you are who you fight in your competition. And, that's very true. And in any form of, art of war. If you're not mentally trained to kill somebody, and someone tries to train you to kill somebody in, let's just say, like a militaristic sense, and you've never been in that position to even be ready for that position, that's a really difficult, position, to put yourself in there. And, not a lot of, people have the confidence to go in there and actually hurt somebody in any form of militaristic, governmental warfare. But that's how boxing is. It's either kill or be killed. And if you're not able to be the killer, then you're going to become the hunted from the hunter. So, that's how the sport is. Like, it's not to be cutthroat. That's just how it is. It's like a Mortal Kombat type of, psychology that certain people don't have. Or not a lot of fighters do have, because not a lot of fighters want to, go into that risk of being, in that position. So, I mean, either way, like, it just shows that fighters who are willing to take risks and they don't care about their, their undefeated records, and they care about, padding their records to be the best fighter that they can be, then that's what determines, great fighters from, lesser marginal fighters. But back to Jaron Ennis, this is the main topic of, of the video. But Jaron Ennis is basically in that same position. When you look at Jaron Ennis, can we say he's going to be ready for the high level in the in the welterweight division? And I would say, possibly. I think Jaron Ennis, he has the ability to do a lot of things at welterweight, but again, we have to see it to believe it. That's the biggest problem with Boots, because I think with this fight that he had with Karen Chukazadian, whatever his name is, Karen was the type of guy where you can say, okay, He definitely has skills, but I think where everything's at in his career, Kieran was supposed to come into the fight to survive. And when he came into the fight to survive, he had something that he brought to the table where Jaron Ennis, he wasn't really prepared for that, because this is a guy that no one's seen a lot of tape off of. And honestly, like, when you see guys of that caliber, I mean, it's really hard to determine if you're going to be good enough for that level. But either way, like, I think Jaron Ennis, if he had, like, Rashidi Ellis that he fought and he still fought like that, I think either way, like, it still would have posed like a problem in the certain sense of him, being a potential, being a potential upset, where, Rashidi Ellis could have been that guy to be, the first person to defeat Jaron Ennis. And I think that's where people were like, okay, well, what if Kieran, he was able to come out of his way and he was able to have more active work weight to beat Boots? And I think that's the bigger issue out of everything, because Kieran had the style to disrupt Jaron Ennis's style, but he wasn't throwing his hands enough to be successful, to be that guy to beat him. And I think that's a bigger problem out of the entire issue, because people don't want to, people don't want to be honest about how they break down fights, but they will say that, when fighters have, a off night in boxing, it's always about, okay, well, what can this fighter do over that guy? And just because he had an off night or she had an off night, it still doesn't mean that style is going to be applied in the next fight. But that's not true. Like, at the end of the day, styles make fights, and however people can perceive your style as a fighter, long-term wise, that's going to give other fighter camps or other fighters from different camps to review your style as a fighter, and they're going to start looking at your weaknesses of what you're capable of doing good at and what you're not capable of doing good at, and they're going to start exploiting you more. Kind of similar in cybersecurity, like when you're a vulnerability assessment tester, or if you're like a penetration tester, like, where the certain hacks are when you're trying to scan a certain network or anything in general related to cybersecurity or any level of IT. If you see the opportunity to see a vulnerability, then you're going to take advantage to take care of that vulnerability. If you don't take care of that vulnerability out of your vulnerability scans as a vulnerability tester versus being a penetration tester, that's like a lot different. But just to simplify it, vulnerability scanners know when they see a problem, they identify the problem, but they don't do anything about it because you're just scanning. But if you are a exploiter and you want to exploit things, that's where penetration testing comes in. Where in boxing, when you see the opportunity to exploit a fighter, to see what they're good at and see what they're not good at, of course, that's where penetration testing comes in, where those people will show you how to exploit this fighter. And same thing with cybersecurity, how to exploit this certain, common flaw that you see out of this network. Like, if I wanted to hack, let's just say, I'm just making stuff up, this is just me being fictitious, but let's just say if I wanted to hack Chase Bank and I wanted to steal at least a cent every single day from people's accounts, I can find out how to do that. But the problem with that is that I would have to go through a lot of rounds of penetration testing, and that would have to require some form of vulnerability scanning. But the crux of that issue is that I would have to work really, really hard to understand where I need to go in order to hack a certain industry of that level to be successful and to protect my name from being exposed. So in boxing, it's the same way. That's how other fighters look at other fighters. Why should I fight this guy if I know I possess some vulnerability to this fighter, or this fighter can be vulnerable themselves? But then again, you won't know until you fight the fighter. So honestly, that's how Jaron Ennis is being viewed right now. He looks like a very dangerous experiment product that's not finished. He's an unfinished, dangerous experiment product. And I say the best time to get him while he's vulnerable is now. Because if you see the opportunity, if you are a penetration tester in a cybersecurity industry function, you would want to take advantage of the issue to take down the opportunity that could easily go wrong against you in a certain exploit that could be very, very bad for any business level experiment. But in boxing, that's how it is. Certain fighters are basically, how should I say, they're basically cattle like an animal, which I like I don't like to put people in that category, but that's how certain fighters are being moved. When you have a certain fighter that's good, they're on the come up, they're doing very, very well, but they're not being managed properly with who they're fighting, that's what's going to show the weaknesses out of a fighter a lot faster versus the fighters that are not able, or they're not able to be quote unquote politically protected, but they're willing to fight the best opposition. And guess what? They're controlling their career the right way. That's how boxing should be. That's how boxers should move. But with Jaron Ennis's caliber, is he choosing to fight the best? Yes. He is wanting to fight the best opposition that's in front of him. But is he going to be ready to fight the best? That's going to be a question that will be later answered. But as far as my question, is he another Erickson Lubin? That's a maybe, because we don't know if his chin's actually good. We don't know if Jaron Ennis is going to carry his power late game and do the things that people think he's going to do in a really, really tough fight, not just a fight that we just saw with Karen Chukazarian. No, I think Jaron Ennis, he is still on the question mark symbol if he's going to be able to do what he says he's going to do at 147 against a top tier upper echelon talent. And I think that's going to be very, very hard for us to understand where he's going to be. But either way, I think Boots, I think he is definitely going to scale higher than Lubin. I think his time will be now to take the challenge against Jaron Ennis. And I think the person that could easily, be a good threat for Jaron Ennis, that could easily upset him, could be Errol Spence. And if Errol Spence is able to defeat Jaron Ennis and take him down, by all means, shoot for the stars, Jaron, because I think he will still be champion. But I don't think his Erickson Lubin shadow will definitely show until fighters that are not afraid to take him down and use a certain level of distinction in their skill set to break him down mentally and physically, that could bring Jaron Ennis to a certain level of mental dysfunction where he could lose by knockout or just give up as a fighter and he's not able to continue his spirit. But I think Jaron, he'll be fine, man. I think it's all speculation with what I'm saying, and like I made about Terrence Crawford and Katie Taylor, I don't think Jaron Ennis is at that level, because he's not willing to cover up his shell as a fighter. He's willing to expose himself to all the great high level difficulty opposition that he's able to take in front of him. And I think come fight night, off of his next fight, whether that might be Errol Spence or whoever, I think Jaron Ennis, he's still going to become a world championship level fighter. So there's really nothing to really hate up on him. Same thing with Lubin. I think Lubin, he's still valuable at 154. But I'm just making this comparison to say, like, if he was like Lubin, how would everything play out if he wasn't able to really get up there to the world title level? Because it's very difficult to keep your spot as a world champion. People say that it's easy to get a world title if you're able to play your cards politically, but it's hard for you to keep it when you know that there's plenty of other opposition that you haven't fought yet that could easily take you down and very well expose you in the near future. So I think that's going to be the major factor with Jaron Ennis's skill set as a fighter. I think he's yet to fight anybody good, but I think honestly we'll find out. We'll find out if he's really about that life, and he's going to actually beat everybody in multiple divisions, where he says he wants to become a 3 division or 4 division undisputed world champion. So I believe it. I think Boots will very well achieve it. I think where he's at right now, we just need to see him get the belt. That's all. We need to see him get his title shot, and let's see where things are going to go. I think he's going to get the IBF belt through vacancy. I don't see Errol Spence getting undisputed with Terrence Crawford, but let's just say if Jaron Ennis, if he gets mandated to fight Terrence Crawford and he washes Terrence Crawford, as I would believe it to be true, then don't be surprised if Errol Spence knocks on Jaron Ennis' door and be like, okay, time to unify. Boom, have the fight down in Texas, and Jaron Ennis, that's gonna be one of the greatest welterweight fights of the century. And I don't care what anybody says, but Errol Spence will very well defeat Jaron Ennis. But I think if Jaron Ennis, if he comes back a lot stronger, if they were to rematch for undisputed twice, if not 3 effing times, that would be one of the greatest fights in boxing, hands down. I'm calling it right now. Errol Spence versus Jaron Ennis, if the cards are played right, for 2023 or 2024 for undisputed, will very well happen if Jaron Ennis gets his shot to beat Terrence Crawford for the WBO belt. So those are my thoughts. I don't think Jaron Ennis I don't think he's going to be the next Erickson Lubin, where he's going to be hyped up to be this next big thing, and then he gets knocked off by some absolute killer. I think the good thing about Lubin is that he's gotten way better ever since he lost to Charlo, and I think heading into his future fights after losing to Fundora in a very weird manner, I think Lubin, he's still a deadly player, in boxing. So either way, comparable between Boots and Lubin, it's just only a matter of time to see where things go. Because Charlo, he's gonna vacate all all of his belts, and I think what's gonna happen is that Lubin, Fundora, Tony Harrison, all these other guys will definitely snatch up the titles, and I think it's gonna be a hard, fresh reset. So same thing with Jaron Ennis. If Errol Spence can't get undisputed, he's very well going to get a title at 154. But it's going to be a really tough road for Spence at 54, but I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to look a lot more sharper, a lot more dangerous at 154, and yeah, especially where he's at right now, borderline 32, about to be 33 in March, I think. Yeah, I think everything will scale. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know what y'all think, and yeah, I'm out. See you later. Shout out to Mighty LDPC and TWT. I'm out.